We are focusing on May, Mental Health Awareness Month, on this edition of the Eye on Northeast Kansas podcast. Welcome in. I'm your host, Melissa Bruner. This is where we recap some of those top interviews you saw on Eye on Northeast Kansas, the TV show. It comes to you live Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock Central Time from our WIBW TV studios in Topeka, the capital of the great state of Kansas. You can see it streaming live on WIBW.com at that time as well. We recently devoted a whole half hour of Eye on Northeast Kansas to all things mental health. It was part of our Hear Me, See Me mental health awareness initiative, and it was inspired when a study ranked Kansas 51st in the nation in mental health. What could we do about it? That's where we started the conversation with Drew Adkins. He is the Behavioral Health Commissioner with the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services. We wanted to know just what is the current state of mental health in Kansas. And 51st is not good news.
Agreed.
We didn't want to be last. So
Absolutely.
What has the state of Kansas done in terms of improving behavioral health services so that that mental health ranking could go up?
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you for having me on, highlighting this, such an important issue, having some of your guests, some of our providers on. I just want to thank you and WIBW for that.
Thank you.
It starts with awareness, it starts with education, right? From that ranking, from the 51st ranking, we have worked tirelessly between the governor's office and the governor herself, really focusing on mental and behavioral health as an issue. Really taking a lot of strong investments and a lot of strong positions in what we needed to do, also working with the legislature to get the funding that is needed. Mental and behavioral health across the nation, but certainly in Kansas, and our continuum as a safety net system has been consistently underfunded. We are responsible for all the community behavioral health services. We also oversee our state psychiatric hospitals, the two that we have, and the third we're getting ready to build in Wichita at the beginning of 2027. And so some of the highlights that we have had, some of the things that we have invested in at KDADS have really focused first around our Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic program. This is an ultimate transformation of the mental and behavioral health system as we know it. It has required services, it comes with required staffing, required governance, making sure that individuals with lived experience are actually on the board of our CCBHCs. And I'm proud to say that we have worked hard as a state. We've worked hard with our providers and also our association of providers to make sure that this has happened. And it wouldn't have happened without the funding and the resources necessary. Primarily that, along with other investments in services such as 988, our crisis intervention centers and our crisis stabilization units. These entities have to serve everyone that walks through their door. They don't have an option.
And there's been a task force that was created, correct?
That is correct.
What are some things that we've seen come out of that, and where do we still have work to be done?
Right. So out of the Mental Health Modernization Task Force and Committee, right, one of those main objectives was creating certified community behavioral health clinics. It was also to create other stepping stones and utilize evidence-based practices. So supported employment services at every one of our open door access clinics at our CCBHCs, assertive community treatment services, wrapping individuals in the community, meeting the individual where they're at, mobile crisis services, eliminating the wait lists at the state hospitals. All of these things are things that we have achieved and are still working on.
Yes. Do we have enough behavioral health services for those who need them?
At this point in time, we are aiming to make sure that it is a reality. But as you noted, there's always improvements. It's never going to be a perfect situation. We still need resources, we still need funding. And one primary objective that the agency, the governor, our secretary, has really, and our providers as well, that have really tried to focus on is our behavioral health workforce shortage. We have some things that are in the pipeline that are creating more residencies for psychiatrists, more residency for nurses, individuals that will focus on behavioral health services, but there is still more to do.
And we are going to talk about what's being done and how some of these providers that you mentioned are here to help address some of those things that you're talking about. Drew from KDADS, appreciate you being here and letting us know all the things that are in the works. Accessing mental health care can be a lot easier when you have a home, health insurance, good transportation, live in a city with a lot of providers. But what if you lack any or all of those things? A lot of organizations are out there tackling those issues to ensure everyone gets the care they need. Carrie Reeves is Director of Clinical Services for Vallejo Behavioral Health in Topeka. Dr. Rachel Kaufman is a psychologist and Eastern Mental Health Supervisor for Pawnee Mental Health based in Manhattan. And Lucas Moody is Development and Logistics Director for Crosswinds Counseling and Wellness in Emporia. Obviously, you represent a geographic cross-section of Northeast Kansas, and you serve very different populations. Carrie, Vallejo in particular, I know, has some programs that reach these groups we're talking about. What do you do, Carrie, to reach people who maybe don't have those benefits of insurance, a home, transportation?
We have the Hope team at Vallejo, which they're our homeless case management team that goes out to the homeless camps and reaches out to them there. We have the MAP trailer Tuesdays and Thursdays, and people can come there and connect to resources. We also have the mobile crisis response team at Vallejo. We have it Monday through Friday, and they will go out into the community to meet people where they're at to help them get resources or bring them back to the center.
A lot of those things you mentioned are the unsheltered population. How large of an issue is mental health and mental illness for folks who are unsheltered?
It's a big issue, and we see a lot of people that are homeless that have the mental health and the substance use as well. So.
And certainly folks who are unsheltered can be in urban or rural populations, but then rural populations, when we talked about that, Rachel, what are the things that you can do through Pawnee that are really outreaching to those folks who maybe don't have a provider right down the road?
Sure. Well, at Pawnee, we do cover like a really large geographical area. So we cover 10 counties. So as far west as, Concordia, Mitchell, Jewell counties, all the way east to Pottawatomie County. So that is a really large area. And the majority of the people who we serve do live in rural areas. So we try to provide services across all of those areas. But if they don't live close to one of those offices, we do offer a lot of telehealth services. We do offer a lot of services like with case management, so we offer transportation assistance and things of that nature.
What are the unique challenges when you look at those rural populations?
Well, there's a lot of things that you might think of, like logistical challenges with geographic location, transportation, lack of insurance, or even lack of communication services like internet providers in some of those rural areas. But one of the other challenges that I think about is just the cultural norms in some of those rural areas. It's not just about providing accessibility. It's we show up and we put an office in some of those areas, and then we also have to provide education to those individuals and to those communities about the importance of mental health and that it's okay to access mental health care. You think about some of the cultural values in those communities. They really value independence, self-reliance, resiliency, and grit, which is awesome, and that really serves them well in the industries that make those communities thrive. So we really have to help them see that accessing mental health care can actually, support those values as well, and that it is okay to ask for help.
And Lucas is over there with your folks in Crosswinds, because you're serving a lot of those rural areas as well, and you're like, same. But you also have done some unique things at Crosswinds, because there's actually a lot of diversity within those rural populations too.
Yeah, we have a massive population that is diverse, from serving super agriculture families into Spanish-speaking families. So a few years ago, we started El Centro, which is a full Spanish-speaking clinic. It is housed with all Spanish-speaking staff and really dedicated to reaching out and connecting and being a part of our Spanish-speaking communities, and has really started gathering more and growing. I think we served 488 individuals last year out of that program, and can continue to see it grow. We deal with the same type of issues, the transportation. When you work in that big of an area, one of the stats that we really like talking about, our staff put 600,000 miles on the road last year.
Wow.
Doing what Drew talked about, which is being in the community, supporting you in the community, serving you in the community, and we do it with people that live in those communities so that we are all healthy together. Those type of things have really helped.
And bringing it back to Carrie, I want to ask you about the importance of community partnerships, because even if you're not putting 600,000 miles on the vehicles, even within Topeka, you have groups like Scent who are providing mental health services simply within that Southeast Topeka neighborhood. How important are partnerships to make sure you're reaching everyone?
Very important, because it gives them critical access to med services and crisis and services that they can't typically get to. So it's been a really good partnership.
Even within a city, you're talking about needing to bring it to people.
For sure.
If you bring it to people, what's the magic that happens?
They are able to get better. They can see providers right there instead of having to come and wait to come to us, and it just, we see vast improvement in their mental health because they can see somebody in their area where they're comfortable.
Well, thank you all for doing what you are doing to bring services to people where they are at and in a way that they are able to consume them and overcome the stigma as well. Thank you all so very much. A lot of our conversations focus on adults, but nearly half of our teens report having a mental health disorder at some point in their life. Karen Smothers is Chief Clinical Officer at Topeka's Family Service and Guidance Center, and Colleen O'Connell is School-Based Services Manager with Pawnee Mental Health, of course based out of Manhattan. Thank you both for joining us and talking about our young people. And when we talk about young people, Karen, how much do we need to keep in mind that they're not just miniature adults who need the same exact thing that we do as grown-ups?
Right. So children from littles to adolescents and transitional age youth certainly have different needs as they develop, and families also, as they grow with their children, also have needs and need support from time to time, as we've seen a lot with social pressures and social media and the impact of that on mental health, as well as academics and school performance pressure. We've seen substance use disorders in adolescents growing. So we're here to support families and children as they grow through the lifespan.
And you are, but when we see that statistic and as we see those issues growing and more teens being open and talking about it, can families find the help they need, or what are the challenges that we're encountering now in having enough services for young people?
Right. So a lot of our CCBHCs, as you mentioned earlier, are all open door, so have walk-in clinics so people can just walk right in and get services. We have an assessment, have recommendations for what services might be most recommended clinically for their child or for themselves. We see a lot more parent education and psychoeducation where we're going out in the community, providing parent support, as well as children's services like psychosocial. So families can just call and ask for an assessment. We're working not just with traditional families, but fostered youth as well as in schools. So another way to meet children where they're at in their school.
And so that brings Colleen in very naturally here. How important is that role in schools? What are you finding as you've been able to actually be in the schools?
Oh, the need is humongous. I mean, the kids, they need us to be there. What's really important, though, is that we're able to allow them to have a full school experience and not have to miss so much school. One of the big things our partners talk about at the schools is wanting to lower their absenteeism. It's one of the higher problems for the school districts, and with that mental health need, by us going directly in there, and we are sending therapists and case managers into the schools. We have historically always offered support in schools in our community services. However, with school-based services, we're actually contracting with districts to have a specific place for us to go in, where they go in regularly, they're there on a weekly basis, and providing all those needed mental health supports.
How does that help families access care if the child is able to get it right there in the school building, as opposed to parents maybe having to set another appointment or go here or there?
Right. So a huge piece for kids with the schools is transportation issues as well. That's caused problems in getting into traditional office-based therapies or other services of that sort. With us doing it in the school, we have usually 3 ways at our agency on how they can access services. We have our same-day access, which is what Karen referred to with coming in and just going that same day. We have on-site where we're doing the intakes directly there at the buildings of the schools. So all the parents have to do is be there at the scheduled time for us to provide that service. And then, of course, we have the traditional scheduled intakes as well.
How much more open are schools now to having this type of service? And if parents don't know if their school has it, do they just need to ask?
They can ask their schools, most definitely. We are currently out of our catchment area, contracted with 8 different districts, and there's 31 schools within those 8 different districts that we're working with, and we have another 5 that we're adding for this next school year.
Amazing. So yeah, and Karen, do we just need to wait for kids to grow out of this?
No, I mean, mental health is something we should be focusing on for the lifespan. So giving skills at an earlier age, helping families be equipped to teach their children about emotional health and mental health along with physical health is something that we should be celebrating throughout the lifespan.
Great advice. Karen, Colleen, thank you both so very much.
Thank you.
Admitting you need help with mental struggles is one step. The next step is finding that support. Amanda Cunningham is CEO of Crosswinds in Emporia. Isaac Johnson is a social worker. He is also operations manager for NAMI Kansas. Welcome to both of you. And this is really the key part of the discussion because we hear about all these services, but how do we find them? And for you, Amanda, being in a more rural area, as we spoke about, how big of a challenge is it to just get the word out and really let people out there know you're there?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time really working in our communities and partners and getting the word out. The last few years, especially in Emporia in our area, we've had a lot of success with a campaign that we had for some buildings, and that opened up the door for even more conversation with people we normally wouldn't have. And there's still a lot of misconceptions about mental health and how to access care, and it's just really important to talk to as many people as possible, and so it's really nice to get to have the opportunity here today.
And when I think about Emporia, I really think about what a tough year this has been for Emporia. So you now are in a situation where you're trying to communicate this, you're trying to communicate to a population that has these added stresses with the Tyson plant closing, some other businesses closing, of job pressures, losing insurance. How are you trying to reach them and really wrap your arms around that population that's dealing with, let's face it, extra stress right now? Yeah,
well, you heard earlier the importance of those relationships and community partners, and I think that's a really big part of it. And so in those types of circumstances, they allow the partnerships to kind of come through. And so we're called to the table in our communities because we've been so prominent in some of those discussions. And so being able to identify those gaps and problems and problem solve with our partners to address what those needs are and meet them where they're at.
Well, thank you for all of that. NAMI really has the big picture view, and Isaac is the person in charge of that big picture view at NAMI. When you hear about individual organizations, what is your role at NAMI? If people don't know the individual names of Crosswinds, of Pawnee, of Vallejo, of FSGC, what should they know about you?
I call myself the resource broker, so I'm not the person who's going to help solve your problems, but I can connect you with the people, and so that's what NAMI does. We have a resource line, and you can call us. If you're trying to call us recently, we've been moving, that's why I've been slow to respond. So if anyone's watching, well, you can call us, email us, whatever. You can go on our website. I keep our resources tab up to date. I actually made a new page recently that's just called where do I go for help? And I list out all the major things I tend to recommend to people when they're calling me, just sort of the general, people ask me for community mental health centers. So I have a link to where you can find which ones in your community or your local area agency on aging, or you need help solving this specific issue. Okay, go talk to this specific person. That's going to help kind of resolve that problem.
When you hear people have questions about being able to actually find someone who's able to take them right now, I don't know, is there a waiting list at Crosswinds? Are you able to get people in pretty quickly?
We really try hard. Drew mentioned the open access points, and everyone else has been talking about that too. And so people can come in and get services right away. There's always more opportunity for more service. And so as we need to wrap services around somebody or have those extra points of contact, sometimes those things can take some efforts to get the workforce developed.
When there's a lag time, Isaac, what can you do?
NAMI Kansas provides our own free support groups. I also can help connect with telehealth options. The social work licensure compact that was passed last year in Kansas should also expand telehealth options here for Kansans in the very near future, which is pretty cool.
It's a great way to keep spreading the word. We want you to know how to find all of these folks that you saw today. So if you need to find some mental health support, Vallejo Behavioral Health, their website is vallejotopeka.org. Family Service and Guidance Center is fsgctopeka.com. Pawnee Mental Health is at pawnee.org. If you're trying to reach Crosswinds and all the service area that they have, crosswindsks.org. NAMI Kansas is namikansas.org. Or if you forget all those individual sites, all of them are listed along with a lot of other groups at WIBW.com/hearmesee me. There are so many organizations out there doing this important work. You met just a few of the people here today. Another regular visitor to Eye on Northeast Kansas is Tricia McCourt. She is with Sent Topeka. It is an organization which has really worked to bring services and support to folks in the Southeast Topeka community, High Crest neighborhood in particular. Mental health services are one of the new things that they have really integrated in their offerings here over the past several months. They received a grant called the Kansas Fights Addiction Grant, and they are using that to further substance use disorder and mental health outreach around their area. Tricia visited to visit a bit more about that. Welcome to you, Tricia.
Thank you.
And this is interesting because many people think of substance abuse, of addiction in one realm, but it actually is a recognized mental health disorder.
Yes, and it definitely can exacerbate mental illness, things like depression, anxiety. A lot of times folks will self-medicate, and making the substance use disorder more prevalent. And when we rely on things like that to fix or make us feel better, and we're self-medicating rather than going to professionals. There can be a lot of damage.
And it's
done.
not a personal weakness. I think a lot of people tend to judge folks who are struggling with addiction.
Absolutely. So our mental illness it can be like caused from the brain and brain chemistry, and also from trauma. It is definitely not because someone is weak. So
when we talk about mental illness, how common is mental illness in Kansas, and how common are substance use disorders?
So 24% of adults last year in Kansas identified having a mental illness. 18% faced substance use disorder last year in our state.
That's a great number. Can those people get help? What's the shortcoming when it comes to being able to access help?
Sure. So Kansas Fights Addiction has given us an opportunity this year to elaborate on social media with a substance use social media campaign. And so every month we are highlighting different things, and so drawing awareness to at Scent the different pieces that people can do for their mental health. So we have mental health therapy, we have the substance use treatment, we have the Southside Wellness Clinic, which will address their physical health issues. We have the Southside filling station where we really promote healthy eating and healthy options. And so doing that wraparound service and bringing in partners to touch things like maybe chiropractic services, or we have affordable massage therapy, where we do want to treat the whole body and allow people to know that they can get those resources all in one place.
And this is Scent Topeka, serving the southeast portion of the Topeka community, because it really was among the number that you gave me. 1.38 million Kansans live in areas that lack sufficient mental health professionals.
Absolutely.
That's really an astounding number. A lot of people who need help aren't getting it.
Right, and that's across the state. And Highcrest was one of those places before Tricia Sublett launched our mental health department during COVID in 2020. She identified the need, and so we started the program.
If services are right there, people are more likely to get help. We do have a list that I want to put up on the screen right now so that you can kind of walk through. If people are going, well, I don't need help, these are some signs that we might need support.
Absolutely. So if you identify that maybe you're feeling persistently sad or anxious or overwhelmed, or have a loss of appetite or are overeating, maybe socially withdrawing or avoiding going places. Maybe you are relying on alcohol or drugs to feel better, and frequently feeling irritable or on edge. Those are definitely signs that there might be a mental illness.
And when people are looking at this list, Tricia, I think a lot of us feel sad sometimes. Sometimes we're irritable. Maybe we do have a casual drink to unwind at the end of the day. How do we know when any of those things are crossing the line into a situation where we need help?
Sometimes it's hard to identify on our own. So relying on people, your loved ones, giving them permission to call you out on things, that's a very important piece. We might be in denial about it and not recognize it.
Yeah, someone might notice that something is a little bit out of the norm or over the edge.
Right.
All good tips. Tricia, thank you so very much. ScentTopeka.org is where you can find their information, but also WIBW.com/HearMeSeeMe has a lot of mental health resources for areas, organizations that maybe are national groups or are providers across the region, so that you can find help close to home, because you're right, that's an important step.
Absolutely.
If it's close to you, you're more likely to access it. Tricia, thank you, and thank you for
Welcome.
all you're doing over there in Southeast Topeka at Scent. Appreciate you. Scent Topeka, one of the great resources available. You can visit their website, ScentTopeka.com, and of course, WIBW.com/HearMeSeeMe for more mental health resources. We looked ahead to Memorial Day as well on Eye on Northeast Kansas over the past week. We will have some visitors talk about that when we return. Welcome back into the Eye on Northeast Kansas podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Bruner. This is Memorial Day weekend, and as we head into that, it is, of course, a very special event for the state's Veterans Cemetery. Heidi Goff and Bill Turner are with the Kansas Office of Veteran Services. They told us about our veterans cemeteries and what they are doing to honor our fallen. Welcome to both of you. And it is very special. How many veterans cemeteries do we have in Kansas, Heidi?
We have 4 state veteran cemeteries. They're at Fort Dodge, Waukeeny, Winfield, and Fort Riley, Manhattan.
What do you do on Memorial Day to make it special to honor the men and women who served and then the families who might be coming to remember them?
We have services at all 4 cemeteries at 10 o'clock a.m. on Monday, and everyone is welcome to attend.
Why do you plan something like this every year?
It's to honor our fallen heroes who gave the ultimate price of their lives for our country. And also we remember all of the veterans that are buried at our veteran cemeteries. Their family, friends, and comrades gather every Memorial Day to remember them as well.
And you had shared some photos with us that we can show of the services that you have, not just Memorial Day, but really year-round. Mm-hmm. How do people who'd be interested in having a loved one remembered at a veterans cemetery, Bill, how do they go about doing that? And then what do you do throughout the year for veterans who are laid to rest there?
So really, they have an opportunity to reach out to those respective areas where those cemeteries exist. There's also 2 national cemeteries at Fort Scott and up in Leavenworth too that we kind of partner with to take care of veterans and serve all the veterans across the state. But they can reach through the veteran cemetery folks there, or they can also work with our veteran service representatives that are around the state who offer services and support to veterans in terms of benefits and compensation. They also help to advise and assist veterans throughout the state, and they can give them more information on these activities as well.
I was going to say, it's important beyond Memorial Day, the work of your office. How much do you want to be there for veterans who might have various questions?
Yeah, so it is. It's very important. I think we take it very seriously, and it's really a great honor and privilege that we have to be able to serve veterans in this capacity. So we have the state veterans homes that we have in Winfield and in Dodge. We also have the veteran service reps that are out providing assistance to the veterans kind of on a one-on-one basis with their families throughout the year. And then the cemeteries really represent a lasting legacy there to those veterans and continuing their stories and allowing us to continue to tell their stories with future generations and help them understand the importance of their service and what they did in their service and sacrifice for our nation.
How much work, Heidi, does it take to keep these up? And what kind of things do you need people to do to support having these cemeteries be here into perpetuity?
Yes, we have cemetery staff who work very hard all year round to make sure the grounds are beautiful and meet the National Shrine standards. We also have volunteers who come out throughout the year, especially for Memorial Day, Veterans Day. They place grave flags on each of the grave sites at all 4 cemeteries. For instance, Winfield did theirs this morning at 9 o'clock, and there was probably 100 people there who had came to help to put out the flags.
How heartening is that for you all to see that people really are willing to step up and take this time to remember veterans?
It's awesome. The community support at all 4 cemeteries is just unbelievable. Anytime we need anything, they are always there to step up. All we have to do is ask. And you know, we have probably 300 to 400 people that attend all 4 of the veteran cemeteries at each individual one. So it's just a tremendous support.
What does it mean to you, Bill?
The same, really. I mean, to see, it's really heartwarming to see the communities out there that embrace the veterans in that community, and like I said, the legacy of those that have served before us. And so to see that pass on from generation to generation is just it's incredibly invaluable to have that, and just to have them come together in the camaraderie and being able to share those stories and understand the significance of what these folks did. And so, you know, as a lot of people look at Memorial Day and they look at it as this, you know, kind of the beginning of summer, and we want people to be able to celebrate and to look forward to, you know, many great things ahead. We also ask that people demonstrate kind of a mournful and reflective atmosphere as well, to think back on what these folks did for us.
I'll tell you, that's what gets me every time I go to a cemetery, and when you see the graves and the headstones that have the American flags decorating them, you know what that means. And so what you all do to honor veterans is amazing at all of the cemeteries all around the area. Truly is special. 10 o'clock Monday at the Veterans Cemeteries. If you would like to join the ceremony, the one in Manhattan, or is it on Fort Riley? Yours is at?
We have Waukeeny, Fort Dodge. Fort Riley is located at the Manhattan Airport, and then Winfield.
Very good. Thank you both so much for letting us know about those services. Appreciate it. Our thanks to all of those who have served, and especially our thanks and honor goes to those who have given their lives in service to our country as we mark this Memorial Day. Before we go this week on the Eye on Northeast Kansas podcast, let's look ahead to summer with Forge. Forge Young Professionals is part of the Greater Topeka Partnership. They aim to get the younger crowd involved in the Topeka community, not just professionally, but also to build relationships and connections within the community, so they choose the Greater Topeka area as their place to live, work, and play. Rhett Flood is director for Forge. They are welcoming interns to the capital city this summer. Here's a look at what they are doing. Welcome to you.
Thanks, Melissa.
We were talking about the Top City Interns. So what is this program all about?
Yeah, so the Top City Intern program is really it's a tool designed for employers to utilize to better engage their interns while they have them in town for the summer. So it's kind of a fast program, but it runs for 8 weeks, and we have 6 or 7 events during those 8 weeks where we're engaging interns, we're introducing them to our community. We're giving them some soft skills development, and then there's also some cool events like bowling at the Pennant or live music at Evergy Plaza. It's just a really cool program.
How long has the program been around, and how much has it grown over that, I think it's a short amount of time?
Yeah, so it's been around for 6 or 7 years now, but in the last 3 years or so, we've seen some really good growth. So last year we had about 35, 40 employers with about 350 interns, and the year before that we actually set a couple records where we had 43 employers and 405 interns.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
We have a ton of interns in town over the summer, so we really want to do a really good job at engaging them.
And when you say in town, I guess that's not really something I think that much about. I figure the interns are just kids who are home for the summer and they're going to a local company and saying, hey, can I hang out and gain some skills for the summer? But how far and wide do we actually have people coming to Topeka to experience this?
Well, you know how competitive the workforce landscape is right now. So it is some of our local folks, but it's also a lot of regional and really national talent. So last year, I believe there were 13 states were represented and something about 25 different colleges or universities. So we have a really large spread, and that's really due to our employers in town. They're recruiting these interns to come work at their companies, and one way that I distill it is while they're selling their company and their culture, we're selling Topeka and our community.
That's what I was going to ask. What is the ultimate goal here? Because, I mean, you could just say, well, companies, they're your interns. You figure out how they're going to spend their free time, but you're actually helping the companies plan that free time and giving the interns a good overall experience. So why is that a worthwhile investment for GTP and for Forge?
Yeah, so Forge at its heart is an economic development organization, and we're workforce and talent focused. And so what we want to do is provide a tool to the employers so they can better retain their interns into full-time employment.
Has that been a weakness? I seem to recall some community surveys where it was the young professionals are saying, look, we need a quality of life when we are choosing where to build our careers. Yeah,
and the locals, we know that there's stuff to do in town. You can listen to live music almost every day of the week in downtown. You can go to sporting events. There's all sorts of stuff to do in town. But we wanted to show the interns that and provide opportunities for them to see. A lot of people, they're worried about what they're focused on for work and at their place of employment, and so they're not trying to provide these extra resources to interns. So that's where we kind of step in and fill that gap.
And so then that leaves the interns sitting there not knowing anyone in town and knowing what to do, and they're just like, okay, well, this was fun sitting and staring at 4 walls for my internship.
And there's studies that have been shown, like the more people you know and the larger your network is, the harder it is to leave. So we know that it's hard to leave friends. So what we're trying to do is not only show them community, but build up their own personal networks.
That's an amazing thing. Now you have one super cool event coming up that we want to share with everybody. May the Forge be with you.
Yes.
I wonder what the theme is there.
Right. And so this is kind of part Forge, part Top City Interns, part Downtown Topeka, and then a bunch of community partners. So we have a Star Wars themed block party that's happening actually the same time that the Top City Intern program kicks off on June 5th. This is going to happen on June 8th, that Sunday. And we'll have a couple of Star Wars actors, Spencer Wilding, who was Darth Vader, and Jimmy V.
He's been here on the show before, Spencer has.
And then Jimmy V, who was R2-D2 in several of the films, will be here. And this is, to my knowledge, one of the only times they've been in the States together, because they're both from overseas. So we have a really cool themed event at the T-Box, and they're going to have themed drinks and themed food. We'll have a Star Wars Cantina band dressed up and playing music in the parking lot. And yeah, there's going to be we'll even have C-3PO and Chewbacca walking around. We're looking at getting some stormtroopers and some other kind of Star Wars themed things.
Okay, there's a parking lot behind there?
Behind the T-Box.
Okay, I learned something.
Yeah, to my knowledge, it's going to be the first time that they've utilized it, and we're going all out for it.
Sounds fun. Is there a fee for that event?
Not to attend, but they will expect a fee for any autographs or any photos, or if you're going to bring a specialty item of some sort, they'll sign that as well.
And you don't have to be a young professional. You can just go and hang
This
out
is
and watch
for
everything.
all. This is for all ages. This is
All
for kids, for adults, for any fan.
Sounds like a plan. So check that out and check out the tops. If you're an intern, I'm going to put a company, I'll put the link that businesses can sign up to participate in Top City Interns on WIBW.com. Rhett, thank you.
Thank you,
going
Melissa.
on. Our thanks to Rhett and everyone with Forge and all of the young professionals who open their arms to make other young professionals, the next generation, feel welcome in the capital city. We hope you always feel welcome here on Eye on Northeast Kansas. Remember, you can see the videos from these segments and from all of our guests on WIBW.com. I also share those links along with our studio selfies for a little behind the scenes look on my Facebook page, which is WIBW Melissa Bruner. The segments are on our YouTube channel as well, WIBW 13 News. Be sure to click like and subscribe to all of these things while you are there. And until next time, we'll see you on the Red Couch.